begin with the first part, which is, who is the Prince of Wales? We have long argued in ACM, and we've tried to put this out because it in many ways answers the sort of criticism that is made of Prince Charles, that at a time when most people are considering retirement from their jobs, Prince Charles worked so hard that in 2008, a typical year, he raised $250 million for charity. That's $1 billion, not $1 million. And that's an extraordinary amount of money, making him the head of the largest multi-purpose charity in the United Kingdom, and certainly as big as many others in the world. Now, other princes of Wales have been famous for other things, for their gambling debts, for example, or for their mistresses. Recently, I was reading a book by Conrad Black in which he quotes Sir James Goldsmith, who says that marrying your mistress creates a vacancy. Marrying your mistress creates a vacancy. I'm so pleased to see that that doesn't apply to the Prince of Wales. I'm sorry, Reverend, that I'm referring to such things which probably aren't appropriate. The thing that distinguishes Prince Charles is what distinguishes our royal family, and that is service. Service is what distinguishes our royal family. Our own dear Queen, when she turned 21, told us that her whole life, whether it be long or short, would be dedicated to our service and the service of the great imperial family to which we all belong. And you go back further, you go back to her parents. Her mother said, when it was suggested, as the Germans every evening were bombing London, it was suggested that the children, the royal princesses, be sent to Canada. She said, they won't go without me, I won't go without the king, and the king will never leave London. Service. You go right back to Victoria. That is what distinguishes our royal family. The Prince of Wales, as we know, there's a brief outline of his life. He was born on this day in 1948. He was educated, unusually, at Gordonston, a rigorous school, and then partially at Geelong in Australia. He was the first royal to graduate from a university, from Trinity College, Cambridge. He was declared to be, or proclaimed, Prince of Wales in 1958. He was invested at Carnarvon in Wales in 1969. In 1981, he married Diana. They have two marvelous sons. In 1996, as we all know, sadly, that marriage was dissolved, and in 2005, he married Camilla. He immediately, on leaving the university, entered on a naval and Air Force career. He became a qualified air and naval helicopter pilot and general jet pilot. He flew himself to the RAF College at Cranwell to start his course there. He studied at the Royal Naval College, Dartmouth. He served in the Royal Navy, and his last post in the Royal Navy was in command of HMS Bromington. He's flown a number of planes and continues to fly them, including a World War II Spitfire. And in 1971, he did what Her Majesty seems to have done at the London Olympic Games. He engaged in a parachute jump, which I find extraordinary, given that he's the heir to the throne, and they're usually very careful about the heir to the throne. When he jumped, he said he was slightly apprehensive, which wouldn't be how I would feel. I'm not sure how Jai would feel, because I know he's done that too. He said the first thing I knew when I jumped out of the plane was that I was upside down because my feet had been caught in the rigging. But quickly that was undone. He says, they didn't tell me about this. Fortunately, he came out of that quickly, and instead of landing on the sea, landing on the land, he landed on the sea. Prince Charles, in his life, in his subsequent life, has been outspoken in a number of areas. And we may not agree with everything he says, and I certainly disagree with some things he says. He's been outspoken on the environment, on the heritage, on old buildings, on alternative medicine. But like his father, and it's sometimes forgotten that this is a distinguishing feature of his father, like his father, he took an interest in these things when they weren't fashionable. It wasn't fashionable to be concerned with the environment when Prince Charles was, and he was scoffed at and mocked for his interests. And this is a wonderful thing. And this is something which he has done marvelously. He has a passion, an absolute passion, for the underprivileged. And because of this, many will dismiss him as a mere bleeding heart. He can't be dismissed as a bleeding heart because he does something practical about what he says. It's not like many bleeding hearts who talk on. He does something about it. And with the Prince's Trust, for example, he set up a wonderful range of charities, both for the disadvantaged in the United Kingdom and in other Commonwealth countries. In particular, he's aimed particularly at those who've struggled at school, who've been long-term unemployed, who've had trouble with the law, to try and equip them with the skills that they need to enter into being good citizens of the United Kingdom or the relevant Commonwealth country. Now, there's no doubt that in recent years the Prince has had a bad media. Some years ago I was at a conference on the law of privacy in Australia, and I remember one of the speakers, who has subsequently become a privacy commissioner of this country, saying in his speech, everyone is entitled to privacy, except, and all apologies to Professor Flint, he said, except, and all apologies to Professor Flint, except members of the royal family. Now, I don't accept that. I don't accept that the royal family, that with the royal family you can have open slather. There have to be restrictions. You get all sorts of intrusive and ridiculous reports about the Prince of Wales. For example, there was a silly one by Paxton, who is honoured with a very well-paid position on the BBC, has numerous books, who claims that 7 eggs are cooked for Prince Charles every morning so that he can go along and choose the one which is just right for him. In fact, they've actually gone on to the Prince of Wales site to specifically deny this. There are others that his toothpaste is squeezed for him and put on his brush, and even more ridiculously intimate stories. But there have been serious intrusions into his privacy and that of his sons, the worst being the News of the World hacking. And the first part of that hacking which came out was the hacking of the Prince William's telephone. And you might recall that when that came out and there were prosecutions, the journalists of News Limited, please keep your recorders on, the journalists of News Limited were so outraged that they decided to get back at the royal family. So they ran a story with pictures of Prince Harry with another girl, a girl different from his then current girlfriend, and published them on the front of the Sun to create major embarrassment and to cause problems with his relationship with his girlfriend. What they didn't disclose in those front page pictures was that they were several years old. It was suggested that they were completely new. This is the sort of thing the press does, and of course you should not take any notice of what is said. I remember when I was appointed to the Broadcasting Authority by the Howard government, there was a report in the Financial Review which said that I was very close friends with the then minister, Senator Alston, and the suggestion was, obviously, I'd been made chairman of the Broadcasting Authority because I was friends with Richard Alston. I had never met Richard Alston. I'd seen him across a table once in a select committee before which I appeared in Canberra. I had never had anything at all to do with him. On another occasion in the Sydney Morning Herald it was said, of course he didn't speak like that when he went to Sydney Boys High School. Paddy McGuinness, who was also at the same school after he left the Jesuit school for some unknown reason, immediately wrote back, yes, he did. Don't believe all of this rubbish you read in the press. So So that's who the Prince of Wales is. Remember, this extraordinary man who is so well grounded, as Jai says, who has such an interest and who does something about it, raising in 2008 more than, substantially more than, $500 million that year for charity, and every year raises similar amounts in the United Kingdom.